It was a cold, misty evening in downtown Chicago. The streets were full of hurried footsteps and indifferent glances. People rushed past one another, buried in their coats and their thoughts. No one paid attention to the man sitting quietly on a bench outside a closed bookstore. His clothes were ragged, his beard overgrown, and his hands trembled from the chill in the air. He wasn't begging. He wasn't shouting. He just sat there like a forgotten page in a city full of stories. Liam Collins, a 32-year-old graphic designer, was seated across the street in a warm cafe, nursing a cappuccino he didn't even want. Success had come to him early, awards, campaigns, and recognition, but with it came isolation. After his father passed away a few months ago, something inside him had cracked. The world still moved around him, but his own days felt motionless. He stared out the window and caught sight of the man on the bench. Something about his stillness struck a chord. Liam hesitated. Then he stood up, bought a turkey and Swiss sandwich and a bottle of water, and stepped out into the cold. He crossed the street slowly, unsure of what to say. "Hey," he said gently, standing a few feet away. The man looked up, his faded blue eyes weary but alert. "You eaten today?" Liam asked, holding out the sandwich. The man hesitated, then took it with a slow nod. "Thank you," he murmured. Liam smiled. "I'm Liam," he offered. "Walter," the man replied after a moment. They sat in silence for a few minutes, the wind cutting between them. Liam didn't stay long. He just nodded and left, but something in that small exchange tugged at him. The next day, he returned. And the day after that. It became a habit. Each time, Liam brought food, sometimes gloves, sometimes just his company. Walter rarely spoke about his past. He was polite, always grateful, but reserved. One evening, after Liam handed him a hot meal, Walter finally asked, "Why do you keep coming?" Liam paused. "Maybe because someone once did the same for me. My dad," he added. "When I was in a dark place after college, jobless, anxious, lost, he always checked in. He showed up with food, walks, conversations. He kept showing up, even when I didn't ask." Walter looked away and nodded slowly. "Sounds like a good man," he said softly. "He was," Liam replied. "He passed away this spring." They sat in silence again. Then Walter said something unexpected. "Let me give you something in return." Liam chuckled. No need, but Walter was already reaching into his bag. He pulled out a worn leather journal, its corners frayed and pages yellowed with time. "Take it," he said. "It's just old writings. From a time when I still believed I had something to say." Liam opened the journal that night, and was stunned. Inside were pages filled with poems, thoughts, letters, and reflections. The writing was raw, beautiful, and painfully honest. It read like the voice of someone who had seen heaven and hell, and wrote about both. Liam couldn't stop reading. Page after page, he found himself crying, smiling, thinking. Walter wasn't just a homeless man, he was a gifted writer. A man whose voice had been lost to time and tragedy. The next time they met, Liam handed the journal back carefully. "You wrote all that?" Walter nodded, embarrassed. "Used to be an English professor. Taught at the University of Michigan. Wrote 2 books. Lost my wife to cancer. A year later, my daughter died in a car crash. I fell apart. Tried to teach again, but I couldn't focus. Couldn't breathe. Drank too much. Eventually, I lost everything. It's been over 15 years. Liam was speechless. "Your words, they need to be read. People need to hear you." Walter shook his head. "Who wants to read the ramblings of a broken man?" "I do," Liam replied. "And I think a lot of others would too." That night, Liam scanned every page of the journal. He began designing a draft, a sample layout, a cover, even a potential title, Ashes and Echoes, the words I left behind. His heart raced with every page he formatted. This wasn't just kindness anymore, this was something bigger. A chance to give someone their voice back. A few days later, Liam posted Walter's story online, a blog post about their meeting, excerpts from the journal, and the story of a man the world forgot. He didn't expect much. But within hours, the post was shared thousands of times. Readers were moved by Walter's words. They cried. They related. They responded. Messages poured in, "This man is a genius. His pain feels like my own. When is the book coming out?" One of Liam's old contacts from a publishing house called him, "This is gold. Get me the manuscript." A crowdfunding page Liam had created quietly crossed $10,000 in a day. In 3 days, it hit $50,000. People donated with messages like, "For Walter. For every forgotten voice." Liam visited Walter, who had no idea of the storm unfolding online. When he told him, Walter stared in disbelief. "They want to publish it? People are reading it?" Liam nodded. "You're not invisible anymore." Tears streamed down Walter's face. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't," Liam said. "Just be ready. You're about to change lives." 6 months later, Walter James stood in a bookstore wearing a clean gray suit. His beard trimmed, his eyes alive. It was the launch of Ashes and Echoes. Hundreds showed up. People cried as they read passages aloud. A woman hugged Walter and said, "Your words helped me grieve my mother's death." A teenager whispered, "You made me feel less alone." Walter signed copies, his hands trembling. He kept looking around, as if waiting to wake up. At one point, he turned to Liam and said, "This is the first time in 20 years I've felt like a person again." The book became a bestseller. Royalties came in. Walter got his own apartment. He began teaching creative writing at a community center. The local news did a segment on him. He smiled more now. He even started writing a second book, not about pain, but about healing. One day, he brought Liam a framed photo. "This was Amelia," he said, "his daughter. I think she'd be proud today." Liam nodded, swallowing emotion. "I know she is." That evening, Walter looked at Liam and said something that stayed with him forever, "You gave me food once. But what you really gave me, was my life back." Months passed. Liam's design company started losing clients. He had invested so much time into Walter's book that he'd neglected his own business. He was stressed, anxious, and unsure what to do. One evening, Walter knocked on his door. "I've been working on something," he said, handing Liam a folder. Inside was a business plan. A publishing company. Focused on forgotten voices, homeless people, ex-convicts, abuse survivors, refugees, addicts. "Let's build this," Walter said. Echo Press. Real stories. Raw voices. You have the skills. I have the stories. Together, we can change lives. Liam stared at the pages, then at Walter. "You're serious. As serious as you were the day you gave me that sandwich." And so, they launched Echo Press. It started small. They published a memoir from a woman who had escaped human trafficking. A poetry book from a former addict. A journal from a refugee father. Each book was a reminder, pain doesn't mean the end of your story. Sometimes, it's just the beginning. Liam found purpose again. Not just in designing book covers, but in building bridges between broken people and the world that forgot them. Years later, Liam was invited to speak at a university. He stood before a full auditorium and told the story that started it all. "It began with a sandwich," he said. "And became a lifeline. One man's pain became poetry. His silence became a voice. And that voice gave me purpose. He looked out into the crowd, then upward, smiling gently. Somewhere, he believed, his father, and Walter's daughter, were smiling too. He had given a homeless man food. But what he got in return, was priceless.